being in reality, like real reality in the present moment isn't a bummer. It's beautiful. It's like when you get really real in the moment and say, here's the truth. I've made some shitty decisions and I need to face them. But what do I need to face them? I need to face them with love, acceptance, and mercy and say, okay, step one, what's next? Shame isn't going to help. Going into this sort of pessimistic, shame-based stuff, that's division. It's not going to help either.
Yeah. Padma Shakti is the founder of Rasa School of Yoga and Ayurveda, Visible Belief Education Foundation, and Bay Area Yoga Collective. She is an ERYT 500 yoga teacher and certified international yoga therapist. Padma is committed to the power of community and has a unique ability to use yoga and Ayurveda to help her community live to their fullest potential as human beings. She is here today to help us understand the 3 bodies of yoga and give us some guidance on how to get started in the practice. Please enjoy this thoughtful and purposeful conversation with Padma Shakti. Welcome to Only the Greatest Podcast. If you're feeling stuck and unsure what to do next in your fitness journey, we might be what you're looking for. My name is Philip. I own and operate OTG Fitness, which is a private personal training gym on the south side of Houston in Webster. I do this podcast every week with my best friend, Daryl. We've been friends since 3rd grade and working out together ever since. Also joining us today will be Sean. He's the one that makes this podcast not only sound great, but look good as well. Our goal here is to help Houston make its way up the ladder of health and fitness. So if you're in the Houston area and ready to become the greatest version of yourself, be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform.
Okay, I can chant Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Can we get that on the show?
Om Namah Shivaya.
Is this how we're starting?
Bring
it in.
Hey, we're already recording, man. That's the great thing about having an intro.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I love it. Is this our new intro?
We're getting rid of the song, and we're going to use Padma's chanting as our.
Oh man,
Right.
I love that.
You won't
love
like
it.
sue us. You won't like copyright us or sue us or anything
no,
like that.
No.
Okay, perfect.
I just as long as I'm in on it all.
You're in on it.
You're in.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Whatever you need, whatever you want.
You are it.
All right. Awesome.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, here we are. We just had an amazing intro. What do you think about that intro?
That's the best one we've ever had.
Sean, thoughts?
OMG, I like to be the best.
Today you're the greatest.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ooh.
okay, awesome.
Yes, today you are the greatest.
That's even better.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we really get into this, the first thing that I wanted to do, since we're already here and got the show started, is just say thank you, because I've known you for a few
Thank you.
years, and your efforts that I've seen as a business owner, like from my perspective, someone looking up to you, especially from like the community perspective and the things that you do, it has been an inspiration for me. And I see the things that you do, the way that you lead, the way that you talk to people, and it's very much something of inspiration for me. So first and foremost, just wanted to say thank you for being the person that you are and doing the things that you do. I think it's great.
Wow, I need a minute.
That's a good second thing
For
to.
real.
So the first
thank you.
the first
Thank
good thing
you.
about our beginning was the beginning
Yeah.
chanting.
Yeah.
That's
amazing.
That was the second best thing.
Oh,
So we can end the show right now.
No,
We're
that was
done.
beautiful.
There we go. Yeah, that's
And
it.
so with that, I say to you, Anugrihi Tosmi. Anugrihi Tosmi is, and I've been graced by your presence.
Yeah.
I need to memorize that one.
Yeah.
But I'll tell very few people that. That sounds.
Yeah.
I just want to know it for myself.
Yeah.
So y'all, those of y'all on YouTube and obviously the ones on the podcast platform know that we have a special guest on today, Miss Padma. And we're going to do a whole lot of learning. By we, I mean me, Sean, and Phil. And she's going to do a whole lot of teaching.
Yeah. There we go.
We're going to learn. She's going to teach. Well, you know how I was going to say learning, but then so when you say, let me learn, you won. But we're learning.
Yeah,
She's,
yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So she's going to be learning and we're going to be learning. That
We're all
makes sense.
learning. Yeah.
But no, we're just going to give her the mic here in a second. And you touched on it just before we started why you do the things that you do. Maybe a quick covering of everything that you do, then why you do it and who you're targeting, and we'll go from there.
All right,
So
sounds good.
take the reins. Tell us
Sounds
about Padma and what you do.
Well, the first thing I want to say is in that beautiful opening that Philip gave. So I don't know if you noticed, but the first few words you said, so I just want to take this time to say thank you. And I went, thank you.
Yeah, I did notice that.
So I'm learning too.
She just wanted to say thank you. As
Well, I thought you were telling me to say thank you. So
Oh,
I went,
no.
thank you.
No, I mean, I'm thanking you
Okay.
for being the great person that you are.
Yeah.
I thought you were
Well, that
saying
was
thank
fun.
you for the compliment. I didn't know what you meant, but that's okay. That's okay.
Well, Anagrihi Tosmi is the big thank you. Because
Okay.
that's in Sanskrit, you would say Anagrihi Tosmi. And you'd say that to a male. Anagrihi Tosmi is I'm graced by your presence. It's a way to say thank you. And then to a woman, you would say Anagrihi Tosmi.
Same thing except for feminine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really beautiful. So where were we?
So we were going to talk about Padma, a little bit about what you do, why you do it, and who you do it for.
Okay. All right. So I'm a yoga teacher, humble yoga teacher, but, that's what I often say. But, really quite a bit more. Yoga has just been the instrument to which I deliver just truly greatness to the world. I was born, I'm the oldest girl of brothers and the only girl. And my brothers were lifters. They were martial artists. Being the oldest, my dad was a competitive lifter and martial artist and all of this. And I grew up in really something that was way ahead of its time. He had several, they were called the Roman health spas. And I used to want to get up very early, and I'd go in and I'd help him. My dad was very dynamic, and I'd follow him everywhere. And I saw what he did. He really helped a lot of people. One of the key things that he would do is just by the way he would view people, and I observed him, he never saw victims. He didn't look at people as so they were victims. He looked at everybody, and by the way he would look at me and the way he would look at others, I can look back and I can see that he would look for the greatest, the best in all people. And I thought that was a great gift. And so, I started working for myself very early because I just love being an entrepreneur, because I think being an entrepreneur is one of the key ways that we can really affect our world in a positive way. Even as a girl, I would always say I'm going to be married to the world, and just I would really consider myself a humanitarian above everything. I've been in the oil field. I have had a very successful oil field service company. So I've done entrepreneurships in a lot of different ways, but it was in the field of when I was in the oil field that I found Ayurveda, an Indian medicine modality, and yoga. This was 30 years ago. And I heard about a stress management class at the university in Lafayette, Louisiana. And go Raging Cajuns. It was an environmental law professor, and it turns out it was a meditation class. So I really got into yoga psychology. I got to know a yoga psychotherapist. And I learned all about yoga and Ayurveda, all about the kind of really mental health toward fulfillment, living life and, joy, and through the mind and through the spirit before I ever discovered the physical piece of it. Mm-hmm. I think part of it is I was a very physical person beforehand, having grown up in a lifting family and a workout family. That I was really looking for something for my mind. My dad taught me a lot about, mind over matter. So, this is how I got into yoga. Even at 6 years old, my dad would stack bricks up, really big, and he'd do these commercials, way before podcasts were a thing. He'd do these commercials, and on these commercials, he'd and chop through these bricks. Well, when he was preparing for it, he would have me stand there and he'd say, "What do you see?" Before he'd hit the bricks, he'd say, "What do you see? What do you see?" I'd be like, "I'll see bricks, Daddy. I'll see bricks." He'd be like, "That is incorrect." Boom. And he'd just slice through the bricks with his hands. And he did that over and over. And then I'd come back, I'd be like, "Okay, I'm going to get this answer right this time." I'd go and I'd say, "Okay, I don't see anything." He'd be like, "What do you mean you don't see anything? There's bricks there." But one day, and I'm telling this story because I think this is what led me to where I am today, this such important, poignant moment where I knew I had figured it out. I had been doing this for a year, maybe was 7, was so young. And I walked in one day and I knew it. And there's my dad, who I just cherished. He was just there. And I said, "I know the answer." And he says, "What do you see?" And I said, "The floor." He goes, "What do you mean you see the floor?" I said, "I just see the floor." Because I started seeing after my dad's hand was going through the bricks. Mm-hmm. And I knew it. And he goes, "That is correct," and boom, and there was the floor, Yeah. And the reason I share that, because it was very much about mind over matter. And it's not I'm not going to get all woo-woo or anything, because it's yoga and Ayurveda are about energy management. I mean, ultimately, it is an energy management system. It's incredibly scientific, philosophical, and artistic as well. Many of the world's greatest leaders studied many of the yogic texts, and many of the greatest physicists, Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, studied the texts and the different things that I teach from Ayurveda and yoga, because they know, too, it's an energy management system. Yeah. We have dense energy. It's like if your neck is tense, like if you've been thinking too hard and you're stressed out and your neck gets tense, well, that's just dense energy there. Mm-hmm. And the lighter the mind is, and the more that you work with the mind, with the physical aspect of it, because I'm a very physical person as well. I do very technical asanas. Those are the physical postures, because I believe the body is absolutely the instrument of the mind, and very much the way that we experience the world. In yoga, we shape our mind through the body, and we shape the body through the mind. And then the bridge between the two is our life force, prana or chi. And prana or chi are affected by the quality of our breathing. And so talking about what sounds kind of woo-woo and how this led me here was my dad really set me up to view the world as an energy system, being a martial artist and of course, he was very much mind over matter. Like he's not with us today. My dad was killed in a car accident by a drunk driver just 2 years ago. He was coming home in his late 80s from dancing. He went dancing every weekend.
What a legend.
He was a legend. Yeah, we did. He never drank, never did drugs. We did I did his memorial at the club where he'd go dancing, and many of the people there from all ages, it was a huge deal for people to be able to dance with my dad. Like one woman was like, "It was my birthday. I was just waiting to dance with your dad." They were giving all these stories because he loved to dance. He's very vibrant. And but coming home, he was hit by a drunk driver. And yeah, it's been it's been a tough 2 years, but the work that I do, what I gained from him, it lives on, and I feel more committed than ever. A light has definitely turned on in me even more in the last 6 months or so, as I've moved through grieving about my father, because I can hear my dad behind me going, "Get it up and get going. Girl, you got a life to live, and you got a world to shape." And, so that in a nutshell is really what I'm about. And that's why I'd say I really am a humanitarian first.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason. And I know that's like an old cliche saying, but it very much is true, especially here. I'm sure that 2 years later now, you can look back and like, oh, here's what I've even gained from this experience. You said in the past 6 months, you've really turned it on. And I'm sure that your life, even though this has been a little tough time period here, it's in a trajectory starting now, maybe these past 6 months or maybe tomorrow is just on a trajectory that you never even thought possible because of the lessons that you learned from that. And I'm sure that, your spiritual outlook and the psychological and physical combination of things is then the way that you look at them is helping you get on that trajectory. So, and I did want to ask too, a lot of people I feel like know basically what yoga is in a nutshell. But I'm curious, and you've answered this for me before, but why don't we talk, what is Ayurveda? Like, what is the definition? And then I think that's going to kind of lead us into, you mentioned the prana and the causal and the physical body. And that's kind of like really what we're talking about today, right? So can we start with what is the definition of Ayurveda?
Ayurveda is a Sanskrit term for the science of life. Think of it as the science and the art of the what, why, when, and where of life. What do I need to do? When do I need to do it? Where do I need to do it? And it's all based on nature and how we are nature. We simply have the privilege of choosing to go against our nature. And Ayurveda is the science to support us in making those choices that are aligned with our truest nature. And then yoga is the how. Like it's the tools, the instrument of how to apply all that. And yoga itself, like Ayurveda, is the science of life and your true nature. Yoga is the realization and the expression of that nature.
And quick question, you said that you have these decisions that can go one way. Is there necessarily a right or a wrong? Or are you using Ayurveda that no matter what decision you make, you're helping it move you in the direction that's towards that end point goal? Am I thinking about that right?
I mean, I love that question. That's a great question.
Oh, thanks.
It really, really is. It's a great question.
Excuse me, Padma, could you move your mic around in like a little bit more in the front?
Wow, this is really so cool. I'm messing with this equipment. Okay. Here we go. Speaking of any right or wrong, am I good?
No, I was just saying, you could just move it just more to the front. Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah,
that
perfect.
Good?
Yeah, right
okay.
there's perfect.
All right. Okay, great.
Thank you.
So the question, I think what I'm hearing is, first of all, is there an absolute right or wrong, or is Ayurveda more a direction of a trajectory?
Yeah, helping you, whatever decision you made, it's helping you make sure that decision is moving in the right direction to your, maybe I don't know if there's an end goal like in Ayurveda or anything like that. Is there? That's maybe a separate question, but I hope that makes sense.
No, it's great. I've got like goosebumps because before I came here today, I was creating some content. I wrote a blog post and did a YouTube video on the blog post on the choices that we make. And do we make it from the perspective, am I making the right choice or the wrong choice? Or is it more around what is most helpful and what is unhelpful? And so the idea in Ayurveda, there really isn't a concept of good or bad or right or wrong. Now, this might make people just flip out, but it's just how it is. Because the idea of good, bad, right, or wrong is a divisive way of thinking. There's got to be this way or that way. But from the perspective of Ayurveda and from this perspective of yoga, there's helpful, there's more helpful, there's unhelpful, and less helpful. And so when you're kind of looking at things, it's like, think of it like the law of the farm. You're the farmer, you're out there and you're irrigating the farm. It's like, this is how much, this is the quantity of water we use to irrigate. Was this the most helpful, or should we draw back a bit on that tomorrow, or should we add more tomorrow? Should we be watering more often? Should we be watering less often? So it's very much taking what you have, and it's about being a realist. It's not about being an optimist or a pessimist. It's about taking what is, looking at it, and having the wisdom to be able to say, okay, we've got all of these components of this situation here. Now, what do we have working for us, and what do we want to draw on that's most helpful to get the most efficiency, the most efficient product, in a sense.
Sounds like there's no excuses in Ayurveda.
There are no excuses. As a matter of fact, you ask my kids. As a matter of fact, when you guys were saying you're going to teach us, I pictured my daughter going, Mom, you're so teachy. And my kids will tell you, they'll be like, there's just no wrong answer. And I'm like, there's nothing they can say to me that we're going to hit an end point, because it's a constant process of directing and redirecting and just falling in love with the process of life, falling in love with what it means to really nourish yourself, your life. To Ayurveda is really the process of seeing your life like you want to see it like I don't know the best, like an entity or something, and it's got a heartbeat. And you just envision like there's this heartbeat in your life and the whole of your life. And your life will expand and grow as in the way that you nourish and nurture that psychic or that invisible heartbeat. So there is no wrong way. It's just taking care of the heart.
Yeah. And do you think that, this is maybe a different type of question here, but do you think that a major issue that a lot of people have, like in our culture, in our society, is that definite, and then they're looking for, they're finding the negatives and finding the quote unquote excuses. But in what you're saying is basically, no matter what's going on, we're going to not necessarily spin this into a positive, but accept it for what it is. So do you think that people not doing that is a major issue?
Right. Yeah. Because we live in a world where a great majority of people, two things can't be true at the same time, but wisdom dictates something completely different. And when I say wisdom, I'm talking about true and sustainable principles that can't be refuted. Because when you look to nature, nature's nature. She doesn't care if the house gets blown away. The house is going to be, if an earthquake is necessary, this is what's going to happen to bring about stability. And so there are no excuses. As a matter of fact, all excuses become in the practice of Ayurveda are blocks to your growth. Whereas when you can see your excuses as becoming your obstacles, or you see yourself nurturing your obstacles, when in fact, it's like these packets of light that can open up in your wisdom and your awareness when you're really willing to see them and accept. Acceptance is extremely difficult for people to accept things because they'll see it as giving up. But there's no need to get up. To give up. We simply must see where we are and learn what it means to accept and to come from a space of mercy. Because mercy implies, my human self might see good or bad, but the truth is, the winning yes is more than one thing can be true, and let's move on. Mm-hmm. And I really do live my life that way.
Yeah, I think I understood what you were saying, but when you said that by not navigating this way, it is a block, and that is getting in the way. And if we just allow that block to stay there, that block is probably going to compound over time, and that block could be in front of us for years. Mm-hmm. I think this happens to a lot of people, especially young people. They allow that block to sit there from the time they're 19 years old until they're maybe in their late 20s, late 30s, and you don't even realize that it's a block in front of you. But if you would just accept it for what it is and allow yourself to make the best decision possible at this point in time and just keep going forward, you will get this thing figured out. Mm-hmm. Even though maybe it wasn't the most helpful, but if you would accept that it was unhelpful and then learn from it, and that's how you break through the block.
Absolutely. And in my world, in Ayurveda yoga, and in my world, it really is by our obstacles that we rise. It's by our fails to which we rise from.
But you have to accept that it was just happened to be an unhelpful
Exactly.
at the point in time. And now we can even progress faster or further.
Well, and if you're willing to see it, if you're willing to see that obstacle, it holds information for you. There's going to be information in there. There's going to be something that can be unwound in there. There's going to be freedom in there because, there's that thing, the truth will set you free. It really does. But people are often so afraid that, well, if I really look at that obstacle and accept it, I'm going to need to fix it and figure it out. But they don't understand when you release the need to have to fix everything and you accept it as it is. I mean, I'm a love girl, okay? I'm a lover. Love dissolves all rigidity and harshness. And it's just how it works. It's just how it works.
Well,
Yeah.
I got something to say about that real quick. And so you said get to a space where you don't feel like you have to solve everything. I think that's true. You can't solve all the problems. You're not going to. However, if it is a problem that you must solve, acknowledging it first, because you got to acknowledge it either way, is the only way that you're ever going to build yourself up to get over it. Because most people know what's blocking them, right? They just, like you said, they don't want to acknowledge it. Or they don't want to say that it's there, so they don't have to acknowledge it and make a plan to dissolve it, right?
It's a great perspective
Yeah.
as well. It's stuck in the back of your, it's
stuck.
in there, but you're just ignoring
If you don't bring it to the front and
Yes.
stare it down, you're never going to be able to dissolve it, fix it, go around it, over the top, underneath it. You're never going to be doing anything. It's going to just be in your way.
It's kind of out of sight, out of mind if you
Right.
don't think
Yeah,
about it.
but it is
Yeah,
in
yeah.
mind though, because there's a block there.
Yeah, it's out of sight, in mind. I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, I
yeah.
mean, I just had a similar situation because I've really started working on my digital platform. I'm doing an online digital school, like I'm going all out. And there was this part of me that was like, I don't know. I'm not getting those likes. I'm not getting this. I'm not getting that. This isn't. So, I've tried this before and it didn't work. When I really looked at the truth, though, the truth was I never really followed through. When
I know.
when I let,
Yes,
when
I'm
I
familiar with not following through.
I had to say to myself, Padma, now really, did you really follow it all the way through? Really? And that once I did that, bam, it was like,
I think that there is definitely nuances, and then there's definitely a formula, a concoction that makes success. But I feel like the most important ingredient that nobody can subtract is being a realist and being self-aware. If you're not realistic about what's going on around you and you're not self-aware, you're self-aware enough to go, maybe I didn't really give it my all. If you didn't have that, you would have never gotten past it. Right. And I think that is the only ingredient that nobody can subtract that ingredient. You have to have that. And then depending on what you're trying to build, there's other ingredients that go along with it, right? Work ethic and so forth. But if you don't have that self-awareness and that you're not a realist about the situation, you're never gonna get traction.
I think self-awareness is, that term did not come to my mind. But now that you say it, I think self-awareness is Ayurveda.
Oh yes.
And vice versa.
That's what I've been, ever since she started explaining it, self-awareness has been.
It didn't come to mind, but I'm glad you said it because now I'm like.
And also
bingo.
too, it's self-awareness beyond cognition. Now, beyond cognitive thinking. So it's self-awareness in our cognitive mind of, putting concepts together, but it's also self-awareness when we're speaking like neuroception or proprioception. Where am I in space and time? How do I view time? What are my perceptions of time? And also perceptions of, it's called interoception as well. Like, what's happening in inner space? How does my inner space relate to outer space? And that level of self-awareness in Ayurveda yoga, we really start to move into that too when we start getting into some of the higher level meditations and things like that. We start even moving beyond cognitive awareness and moving into like more spatial space awareness and this kind of thing. But, the whole realist thing and, being real, a lot of people will say to me, but Padma, you're so optimistic all the time. And I'm like, really? Because the thing is I do believe that life is always innately working for our success. I mean, that's just the law of the farm. I mean, the earth is trying to get us it's trying to support us, trying to keep us alive. I mean, just that's Ayurveda. Ayurveda is everything is working for us and for our success, even when we have pain, right? I have pain in the body. My nerve endings are trying to tell me, hey, it's trying to work for me. Mm-hmm. And so I think by nature, it could look optimistic. I'm definitely not pessimistic. I'm definitely not in that direction. But I think that there is a level of being a realist, that there is that optimism. But I do think there is a such thing as toxic optimism too. Because I see people that are very positive in the face of something that is, like kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to build this thing online and I'm going to do this and I'm going to get great muscles and I'm going to compete and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But then there's never really any action taken, but they're still real positive about it. It's like, that can start to get really toxic, when you really need to sit and go, okay, so I want to be really optimistic, but the reality is I'm going to have to confront the obstacle, whether it's, my heavy body, I need to get moving, action steps I need to take to build my podcast or whatever it is I need to do. I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah, I think that comes back to what Daryl was saying. You're not facing the thing that's in front of you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And in your case, it's in the example that you just mentioned, it's a lack of self-awareness. Like this thing is not, they're not being aware enough to say this thing is not going to work.
Yep.
If I don't do something about it. But they stay optimistic, maybe it's false optimism. Maybe they're just showing that on social media or like to other people, but inside they're being eaten alive. Who knows?
It's kind of like mental gymnastics, for lack of a better word. There's another word that I can think of, but I have heard this term before where people will talk about doing this one thing and then never actually following it through. That could be pretty tough for sure.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. But I think it comes down to this, what we're discussing around the, either somebody goes into the kind of a more pessimistic land of it's not possible, nobody can do it, or talks smack, where it's like optimism at first, but then it just starts to be words instead of going, okay, where am I? Again, coming back to self-awareness. Being in reality, like real reality in the present moment isn't a bummer. It's beautiful. It's like when you get really real in the moment and say, here's the truth. I've made some shitty decisions and I need to face them. But what do I need to face them? I need to face them with love, acceptance, and mercy and say, okay, step one, what's next? Shame isn't going to help. Going into this sort of pessimistic, shame-based stuff, that's division. It's not going to help either. Yeah. But it's just like a mama telling her child, that he or she's perfect at everything and then sets them up for a really tough time in life because they're wondering why the rest of the world doesn't see it like this instead of what's in front of me. And Ayurveda and yoga are both very much about see where you are and move from there.
Why do you think so many people, obviously we're living in a world now, I don't want to like beat up on this, but we're living in a world now where like the mental health thing is, not in a great place with all the situations going on. Why do you think that when people do that, they sit down and they think about where their life is? Why are they not doing what you're saying and they're immediately going to the negative / pessimistic side of things? What's missing? What do you think?
Well, that's a great question. So what's missing around when you think the mental disorders? I think there's a few things happening right now. First of all, I do think that people are growing in their sensitivity. I think people are actually becoming more sensitive in a very positive way. I don't feel like we live in a society that's ready to work with some of the greatness that's being born into our society at this time. Like I will be with my grand human who's 21, and I'm sitting next to them, and I'm sitting there, and we are working on a thing, and they're just in a completely different world of understanding. They deal with a great deal of anxiety, body dysmorphia. I mean, they're this tall, thin, beautiful being, but body dysmorphia. And so on the first thing, I can see their brilliance and how quickly they can assimilate things. But I can also see that there's not a healthy outlet for this energy that they have going on in their mind, and this increased sensitivity of what's happening. Because in Ayurveda and yoga, you're learning to become more sensitive. Because in the hierarchy of health, in the hierarchy of psychological health and well-being, the highest, most evolved is going to be a person that's highly empathetic. They have an ability to connect well with others. They have abilities to really co-regulate on a really high functional scale. Well, the next sort of rung is the fight or flight. You know, I'm either got to get into my grips with this, fight over this, or I need to run and get out of here. And then the lowest on the rung is really dorsal. It's called the dorsal response. It's just like a possum. It's just kind of, you know, we have a lot of that goes on. Nothing happens. Well, I think you take that in the way the nervous system functions. We are living in a time where we need empathy more than anything. We need the connection more than anything. We need the higher level pieces. We've got kids being born that their brains are just functioning in an entirely new world, especially, 20, 19, 18, 17 and younger. And, our psychology and our science doesn't know what to do with them. So they're calling them mentally disordered. I think that there are, at least from what I deal with, from what I can see in yoga therapy, I have so many people that have had mental disorder diagnoses that we were able to judo flip those. We were able to judo flip panic attack disorder. And when we were able to accept it, to say, okay, you might have a panic attack, but here's what's happening. Is it possible that you're so sensitive to the world around you? In other words, I'm thinking of somebody in particular, their feelers are they're so spatially aware. It's like, they're so spatially aware, inner and outer, and they haven't quite had the training parentally in school and coming up to know how to digest and process what they're taking in and all that they have the capacity to take in. Anybody I've spoken to that comes to me, they'll be like, that's exactly what it is. I can walk into a room, and if it's big and there's a lot going on, there's so much happening that I don't know what to do, So I just get on my phone and I start, to stimulate. We do one of two things to deal with life at the lower level. We either sedate or stimulate. People are always trying to sedate or stimulate. Many people are caught in that cycle, smoke a little weed at night, get up in the morning, and they'll take their, whatever to get going again. And our society supports this. Mm-hmm. And so our society supports this. You've got these kids coming along and they're like, I can see it. They're like, give me something to work with here. They're abundant. We're an abundant nation. Well, our planet, there are so many places where there is abundance. So these challenges mentally that they're dealing with, there's no place for them to really channel it creatively and, to get to work with it. And I also feel like they're not moving their bodies enough. They need to be at places like Only the Greatest. They need to get their bodies moving and challenging their bodies. But I can tell you right now, I've been teaching yoga for over 30 years. I've been studying, traveling the world for over 30 years doing this. And In the early days, people would come in, they're like, I'm just here to get a yoga butt. Okay, that's all I want is a yoga butt. That's
Get me one.
yeah.
I've been looking for one of those for
Yeah,
about
but-
30 years. So I'm trying to get one of those.
And that was all they would lead with. And we'd find out much later there was something more going on, you know?
Sure.
But now people are walking right in and they're saying, I've got anxiety. I can barely leave my house. It took me 3 times to get here. It was either come here or I didn't know if I was going to want to be in this life anymore. I've got people that walk in and they say, I just took my last drink yesterday. I can't do it anymore. Or I'm in AA, I'm in recovery. People are much more open, which is a very positive thing. It has its shadow side where people can really start to identify with these things, but its open side, people are walking right in going, I heard that Ayurveda and yoga can help me with these things. I heard that this could help.
And Ayurveda is how you're helping them with the, I don't want to use the word psychology because I don't know if that's exactly what's going on, but the more mental side of the equation with people that have this problem that you're mentioning, you're fixing with an Ayurvedic approach. And in the physical piece, we are doing the yoga, which is, like you mentioned earlier, the mechanism to get us to the final destination, right? And you mentioned people need to be physical. And so something that we wanted to talk about today was the 3 bodies of Ayurveda. So why don't we start with the physical piece? And then you mentioned the causal and I forget what the other one is. So you can educate us on that real quick, and we can talk about the 3 pieces, the synergy that they have between them, and why all 3 of them are so important to get to that final destination.
Okay. Well, let me offer too that when we're speaking of Ayurveda, what we do, we're Ayurveda yoga. And the two, they work so hand in hand with one another. And it's okay to say psychology. It's called Ayurveda Yoga Psychology. It's even called, Eastern psychology. As a matter of fact, I train psychiatrists, psychologists, this type of thing. I've been told by many Western trained like psychologists or psychiatrists that when you look at it from the Eastern viewpoint, it's sort of the what's next. It's the Western approach is very, very important in that you discuss what happened, you deal with what's happened, you process the cause, what you perceive as the causes in these things. And the Eastern approach, which is Ayurveda yoga, one student I can think of, it's a psychiatrist, said, she goes, what I've learned is like, this is the what's next. This is the how. This is how we get moving forward. And so one of the first things that we do is that all beings in Ayurveda yoga are seen as comprised basically of 3 bodies. Each of these bodies, think of them like a different frequency or a different vibe of energy. So the physical body is a denser vibrational frequency. The subtle body, or also referred to as the pranic body, it's the bridge between the physical body and the mental body. And we address the pranic body through breath. And that's a subtler frequency. And so, like even you've heard that people have an aura or they have an energy field around them. Well, that's what we're talking about here. We go from the physical, then we have the pranic body, and then the mental, or what's referred to as the causal body, is the energy of thought. There's a saying that where our mind goes is where our energy goes. Kind of like when my dad taught me about those bricks, what my dad was trying to teach me was it wasn't that he tried to pretend that the bricks weren't there. He saw the bricks. He accepted that they were there. It's just that his mind paid attention to what was lying beneath the bricks. And that's the idea of the causal and the thought is that if my mind, I can see the obstacle that lies before me and I can accept it and see what's needed to deal with it, but I can also see what is on the other side of that as well. And I'm able to sustain that awareness in the moment. And then that's what it's almost like, Ayurveda yoga is really the quintessential law of manifestation. It really is. That's why it's referred to as the law of the farm. It takes all the principles, you do all the principles, you do them consistently, and then boom, you have fruit. You create something beautiful. But you start as you're tilling the soil and preparing the farm, you're aware that you're going for maybe if it's a vineyard, you're going for the grapes to create the wine, but you've got to pay attention to what's in front of you, what needs to be done. But you still, want to know, you want to be really jazzed about what it is that you're creating, but you still go through all of those steps. And so these three bodies are, think of them like Vitruvian, like the Vitruvian circles. Am I saying that right? And sometimes I get those words mixed up, but the causal body and the subtle body and the physical body, they all work together. So how I think affects the way my physical body feels. The way that I breathe directly affects my physical body and affects my mind. We use breath to shape our mind. We use our mind to shape our breath. And then ultimately, our body is the outcome of that.
Is a question that I had, because there's three pieces to this. Can I start with one and then the one leads to the next, which leads to the next? Or is there like an equal synergism between all three?
No, that's a great question. So personally, I feel like it's always best to start with the physical body.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
People do come in and they'll be, I've heard about meditation. I just want to meditate. Okay. If you've ever tried to sit and just plop down and start meditating and you have not got your physical body and your pranic body in order, that's very, very difficult. Most people just sit there and make grocery lists, or that's why a lot of people don't do it, because they don't understand.
It is very difficult.
Yeah, you have to cultivate. It's like cultivating for the farm. You got to cultivate the body. Think of it like this, you're kind of like a psychonaut, right? It's like and this body is the vehicle. So I teach very high level meditation. Okay. We're on a 54-day meditation thing right now. And I teach but one of the first things you must master, I refer to as your sustainable seat. But because you've got to be able to get to a place where you can sit still, and you've got to work with that. So the first path of meditation is to be able to sit still. Well, to be able to sit still, you have to move a lot. You need to probably be running. You need to be lifting weights. You need to be able to get in postures. You really do. There's all of everything that we do. I mean, I'm a mover. I love to move and all that, but I can sit for a very long time because of the movement. Now it's the movement, physical body, that I then get in relationship with the pranic body, the breath body. Well, when the breath body and the physical body come into relationship, that starts to set you up mentally. Now, think of it like when you look out in nature, if you've ever seen like, those film footage on the ocean and the fish go, they kind of swoosh together really beautifully, one moves and they move together. That's how you want your body, all three of your bodies to move together. You want your physical body, your pranic body, and the way that you think, you want it to move in this beautiful, harmonious movement together. And a big part of mastery, the pranic body, begins with working with the emotions. The term Rasa yoga, the name of the type of Ayurveda yoga that I do, actually means basically emotional intelligence. And it's starting to see the emotions as your superpower. And in Western science, they're just now getting this. This is something that's been in Vedic wisdom for over 10,000 years, that your emotions are your power. And so, but you first cultivate the physical body, and from the physical body, you master that. Then you bring your breath in your body. You want your breath in your body in this beautiful, like a love relationship, and this beautiful dance together. And then you start to notice emotions. And in Ayurveda deals with the 5 elements, right? It's earth, water, fire, air, and space. Every emotion has a different element. And when you're learning to master the elements, you learn to do it in the pranic body through emotions. Now, the mental body or the causal body, it's comprised of three main forces. One force is heavy, like the dorsal vagal response that Western science talks about now. One is up and down, which is activity, movement, and one is very wave-like or harmonious in nature. The goal is to be able to mobilize between that kind of up and down movement and that wave-like movement on point. It's not to get in, the whole idea behind Ayurveda and yoga isn't to get to this place where you're like, not in the world. It's actually to be able to love the world, to party in the world, to be in the world, to live fully. Like my dad, I share with you guys, just to be able to just live so fully, to really press into the edges. But we can only really do that when those three bodies are in order.
And you're adapting to the situation that's in front of you
100%.
At any given time to pull 100% of what's around you, at that given time. And so if something different's tomorrow, well, you can change your wavelength to also accept that at 100%.
Rather than just getting stuck on one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Instead of looking at things too as good or bad, or myself and how I feel. Just like looking out the weather, some people say, "Ooh, what a gloomy day." And it's like, well, no, it's a heavy day with a lot of moisture in the air and the clouds are full. What makes that a gloomy day? Right? And in Ayurveda yoga, those three bodies, we think of it the same way. The mountain is our body. Right? The earth, the mountain is our body. Our thoughts move like clouds across the sky, and the clouds are our emotions. And as long as we let our emotions move, the clouds do not accumulate and get heavy. So we want to be like the mountain and learn to see and pay attention to. The grief that I've experienced, I've actually lost two dads in 2 years. I was very close to both of my fathers, my stepdad and my dad. I lost my biological dad, and then only a year later, my stepdad. So it's been a pretty heavy time for me. And I've felt some deep pain around it, but you know what? It's just like, it's just like I just feel it. And there are certain practices and different things that I know to do to digest. I want to keep the fish swimming harmoniously. I can still be sad and the fish keep swimming.
Sure.
I want to keep, no matter what, I want to maintain coherency. I can still feel sad. I can feel angry. As a matter of fact, there are some things in this world we need to be angry about, but we want to digest our anger, not push it off on somebody as those are good people, those are bad people. See, that's the problem when we become like the mountain and we allow the emotions to move. We can then be able to see and discern, is this something for me to respond to? Is this something within my control? Or is this, is this something that I need to move within my own being? So like the people at my school, with the mini wars. I mean, we know the one big one right now, but right now we've got something like 34 wars going on across our planet. We're more divided than ever. But there's also many that are more united than ever too, in a positive way. And the thing is that I can see what's happening out in the world. I can feel the pain of what's occurring and hold the place of empathy for everyone. But then I can look at it and say, is there anything for me to do directly? Like, do I get in a plane and go over there and fight or what? No, I don't. But what can I do? I can learn to be unmoved like the mountain, like that OTG there. I can learn to be unmoved.
The mountain.
Yeah, it looks like a mountain, right? I can learn to be unmoved by these appearances or by apparent reality. And then I can find a place of unity within myself and create the type of peace I would love the world to be. I can in my corner of the world and help others. I have people that'll say, I'm having trouble with my perspective on what's happening in the world. And these are the exact things that I talk about. The world doesn't need, more people pointing the finger at this side and that side. Until we end the conflict within our own selves, war is always going to be.
I love that.
100%.
You know, it's got to
yes.
stop here, you know?
Something I heard recently, or I read recently, is basically exactly what you just said, shortened up. You are the revolution you're waiting for.
Oh my
so
God, oh my God,
you look in the mirror, and that's how you start to fix the problems. And I have a whole lot to say about all the things. I've been sitting here listening intently, but I picked a few things out of here, and I'll speak my piece on it, and then we can move on and so forth. But I often say the difference between, and this is very baseline, low level, the difference between, you know, children and adults is adults can maintain poise in the face of their emotions. Kids tend to not be able to do that. Some more than others, right? But the older you get, you like to think, the better you become at controlling your reactions to your emotions, right? And I think that is one of the ultimate keys to success. If you can maintain poise and you can maintain okay, this happened and it was not good, or I made this decision and it was not good. There's nothing I can do about it now. What's next? You said it. What's next, right? Now, what can I do to move the needle forward from this place of negativity or whatever you want to call it, right? And I think when people thrive too much on, they give way too much energy to the things that they'll never be able to control,
Right.
and not enough to the things that they can control, because they're so upset they can't maintain poise in the face of being upset, angry, sad, whatever it is, and move the needle forward. And that just plays right into, you are the revolution that you're waiting for. And so, you know, if you want to start changing the world around you, start with yourself. And all three of these things matter, right? Or all three of the bodies matter in that situation. You know, you got to be physically fit, you got to be mentally fit, and you have to, you just have to be able to control your emotions. So, yeah, I don't know. I wanted to speak my piece a little bit.
No, I love it.
I love it as well. I think that it's great. And I think it goes right along with the main takeaway that I took is, just because I'm sad doesn't mean I have to stop swimming.
Right.
Right.
You know, I can deal with sadness and keep swimming. I can deal with anger, keep swimming. I can I can really get caught up in a situation and think about it, and I can spend days, but I can keep swimming.
Yeah.
I can keep swimming while I do this thing, while I think about this thing, even if I'm upset about it. I can keep swimming.
She said to a lot of people, it's black and white. It's this or that. That's not the case. You can be sad and you can keep swimming.
Yeah.
You can be mad and you can keep swimming, and so forth, right? You can keep moving down the line. You can keep progressing in some way or another. I mean, clawing for it, scratching for it, you know, crawling, whatever it is you
whatever
gotta
it takes.
do to move forward.
Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of the episode we had with Insurance Phil, and he was talking about, long story short, he was working at a job. He'd worked there for a while, and then he just kind of randomly got let go. And he was, they were kind of like smiling in his face, but stabbing him in the back type thing. And he felt pretty slighted, but he was like, man, I really didn't let that like kind of dampen my shine, like what I was trying to do. You know, he didn't become that emotion. He just used it to fuel what he was doing. He was like, I was angry, but I was angry and I was moving forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, he said something along the lines of, there's nothing he could do. They let him go, right? There's nothing he could do about it.
Yeah.
So what's next? What
Yeah.
do I need to do to move forward? And that's what he did. He didn't become that. You're right, Sean. He didn't become that. And I love hearing about.
He didn't let the rock
Right.
stay there. He broke through it.
Another very basic one I'll leave y'all with here. And I send this clip to Phil every time I see it. I see it often on Instagram. It's a Joe Rogan. It's a clip from his podcast. And he's shorten it up. He's telling this story about his friend who was in the middle of doing, I don't know if it was starting a business or a training program or whatever. And he tells the story from his perspective. And he's like, and my friend tells me, man, Joe, I wish I would have started earlier. I wish I would have started sooner. And Joe Rogan chuckles and he goes, yeah, well, you didn't. So shut the fuck up and let's go.
That's a good one. Yeah. It's like, that's gone.
Yeah. So you didn't. Okay. That's it. That's the end of the thought.
Let's
you
go.
Didn't start early. You didn't start sooner. Period. that goes away, where are we going?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What are we doing? And it's the most basic way to sum all of what I was saying up, right? Yeah, well, you didn't. So shut up and move forward.
Well, and I mean, the thing is that we are actually designed to do that. Because when we look at this thing kind of in Ayurveda yoga, our thoughts and our emotions are the byproduct of our thoughts. And what happens if we're not digesting, like physically, if we're not digesting, emotionally, if we're not digesting, in the way that we think, then what happens is it's like it gets clogged up. Emotions get clogged up, they get stuck. And it's not, we don't have a lot of choices about what thoughts pop up. Thoughts are just going to pop up.
Yep.
But we do have a choice about what we think about those thoughts.
How we react to them.
Yeah, the thoughts aren't really the problem. It's what we think about is the problem. And that's what this guy that Joe Rogan was obviously talking to, because he was thinking about what he was thinking about. He was thinking about and then those emotions where in reality, just physiologically, there's a refractory period in emotions. Mm-hmm. It takes like 90 seconds for, let's say, if you have this rush of sadness or this rush of anger, or this rush of disgust or whatever it is that kind of comes rushing in, that if you can, when we refer to digesting in Ayurveda yoga, digesting is like being the mountain. You stay with your breath. You're not ignoring it. We have a practice. We call it noting and labeling, where you note and label the emotion. You might say, angry, and it moves with your breath. And it's like you're just watching a movie and you allow that emotion to be there. You don't think about it. And that's what I meant when I was talking about cognizing. I don't say, what is it that I'm feeling now? I'm feeling so angry. I don't know why I'm feeling so angry, because I'm feeling so angry. Because then we're thinking about what we're thinking about. We're cognizing a bunch of stuff. Whereas when we just go angry. And if you get really good at it in the science of Ayurveda yoga, what happens is over about a 90-second period, it'll just move right through you.
Like the clouds.
It's exactly like that. And this is what a master does in their life. This is what the people that decide that they're going to create something, this is exactly what they do. It's not that they're squashing them down, because there's a thing called the issue being in your tissues. Because if you just push it down, it's like it has this sort of beach ball effect, because, you've seen somebody that rages on somebody. Oftentimes that's a lot that's been pressed down. Whereas when you understand this science, the importance of movement, bringing breath and body into movement, and learning the science of mastering the mind, and there's nothing that can stop you, Yeah. I've had people say to me, well, you're a yoga master, why are you angry, or why are you upset? I'm like, that's why I'm a yoga master, because these emotions are there for a reason. When you go to the movies, could you imagine going to a movie where you go into the movie and it's like, oh, and they all lived happily ever after at the end? Or what about going to like your favorite football team, whoever that might be, or baseball team, and you go and they say, oh, don't worry, the other team forfeited, your team won. Aren't you happy about that?
No,
we want the emotional. We want the passion. It's
like Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
You ever watch that movie?
I love it.
It's like Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, love it.
That's the competitor in me, though. No, I want to actually beat you. Like if I show up to an event, like if I show up to race Phil and he pulls up and he goes, oh, hey, man, my hamstring, I can't run. You win. No. We're racing.
Yeah, we're re-racing.
I'm going to beat you and your hamstring.
I'm going to damage my hamstring so we can race on the same handicap.
I will tear my hamstring just
so
like
we'll be on the
yours.
same level, and then I'll win.
And then I'll beat you in the torn hamstring race.
I'm a little competitive.
Yeah. I like the analogy of the football game. That's very good.
Yeah.
And then, another thing that I really took away was that emotions are a byproduct of our thoughts. Well, I knew that, but I've never thought about it before.
Yeah.
Never put any thought. And you also mentioned how the physical piece is often what can be helpful to get started, and that kind of runs into the others. So correct me if I'm wrong, but if someone is struggling in a difficult time right now, no matter what's going on in their life, their emotions are all over the place. Mm-hmm. If we kind of work backwards here, if emotions are a byproduct of our thoughts, and the thought is one of the three bodies, and the physical piece can lead into bettering the thought, maybe if someone's listening to this and they're struggling with emotions, they can work backwards and work on the physical.
Yeah.
And then once the physical is under control, they're going to see that synergy lead into the thought piece of the body, which will then lead to helping us control their emotions.
Well, and you're right on track with that. I'll just kind of do a little upgrade.
Please,
Is that
please.
okay?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. That's what you're here for.
Yeah. So, okay. So somebody, if you're dealing with a thing, so yes, we want to, let's say, for example, we're working with a body. One of the first things I want to do is I want to challenge them physically. I want to I want to see them be able to kind of press to their edge physically, and then I will begin to watch their breathing patterns. And then I'll start to work with them on how to have their body move with their breath. So in other words, I want to say, okay, so what you want to learn to do is have every breath precede every movement. That's where the discipline's going to really come in big. So they start moving, and in whether they're in a yoga class and they're doing asana, or if they're at the gym, anywhere, one of the first things I'm going to want to teach them is it's how you have HRV and heart rate variability and how important that is. Well, respiratory variability is important. So think of it like this. Oh, wait, this is a good one I just came up with, actually. Heart rate variability mastery to respiratory variability mastery will lead you to emotional variability mastery, will lead you to thought variability mastery. Was that a good one? I just came up with that.
I
just
like it.
came up.
That's exactly.
I was digging it.
That's pretty much what I was
Okay,
saying.
good.
But I went in one direction.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I went backwards and you went
She
forwards.
upgraded what you were saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It was an upgrade.
Yeah, what you said was way better than what I said.
Admit it.
Yeah, what I said,
I'm the guest.
It was,
what you said, greatness. Yeah, for sure.
it was the sleek new model. Yeah. It was 2024 model.
No, that's super helpful. And you mentioned, how you help people. So maybe we can change directions a little bit. You mentioned earlier, Rasa is emotional and as intelligence, is the meaning. So maybe what you do now at Rasa, how it works. Just go ahead and tell us a little bit about Rasa Yoga, how long it's been around, stuff like that.
Okay. So it's been around a long time. Like I've been around, I've got 5 grandkids. It's been around. Yeah, I've got 5 grandkids.
I wanted to talk about that as well. Yeah, I was waiting until the end. But.
Yeah. So I started practicing yoga, like the meditation piece. I was 28. So it was 30 something years ago. 35 years ago. And so I started that. And then, I was in the oil field and stuff, and it just sort of accidentally happened because I was going in and I was helping these engineers that were like stressed out and all of that. And so I am getting to your question. I've always framed everything.
You're good.
Yeah. That's the yoga teacher in me. Everything's got to have context. So that was a really long time ago. And it's happened all so organically. There wasn't a time that I said, oh, I'm going to have a yoga business. Because I understand I was in the oil field. Mm-hmm. I was making some real money, And, but I was so unhappy. My quality of life, I was so poor. Quality of life was very poor because I was working all the time, money in the bank, but no time to play with it.
To spend it at all.
Yeah. It was I hurt so bad. I was 28. My body was in terrible shape. I lived on candy bars because that would cut my appetite so I could just work. So the whole thing that I've done where we are today, it's been pretty organic, meaning I did my practice and everything I talked to you guys about today, and I started drawing a soul tribe to me. Like people, because I'm pretty particular. I like to be around who I like to be around. I don't spend my time... yes, I'm a humanitarian and yes, and altruistic, and I want to do everything within me. But, there's a whole thing in Ayurveda yoga. It's called the science of association. And it's important that you hang out with people that help you be better,
We talk about that all the time.
So important.
You will be the sum of the people around you, right?
Yeah, and it's not about exclusion. So I'm a very inclusive being, so it's not about that. But it was like I didn't see I was actually forming a business, but my first 2 students, one was a founder of The Rose, and she was just starting it back then, and one was a 17-year young girl, and they just started bringing people. And I was like, I like hanging out with them. And one of them was like, I want you to start charging us for this because you're keeping us so long. And I'm like, well, if I do, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And so it's always been an on-demand thing, and it's just recently, like I say recently, in the last 5 or 6 years that I've kind of started becoming more aggressive. My whole, my going out to, where were we? Was it to see a Grant? And I'm getting a lot more aggressive in my life. Like, I'm turning it on, baby. And, organic, I'm going to get aggressive here.
Getting intense.
Yeah. Getting it. And so what's happened, though, is that I have a place that I get to go to that I love. Like, I love the people, and they know I do. Like, they know I love going there. I love everybody I'm around. I love the people I get to teach. Like, this whole idea of Ayurveda yoga and the whole idea of what I'm talking about here is, you attract to you. I mean, look, I'm sitting with you guys here today.
Hey,
right?
how's it going?
I know, right? You attract to you. There's this idea, things don't come really to you, they come through you, like who you are. And so at my school, like, I don't do a whole lot of promoting of it because it's just so self-evident. I mean, you feel it when you're there. Mm-hmm. It's just like so self-evident. As a matter of fact, the last time you were there, whenever I had that event, I was speaking to a few people, and they're like, you put on this big, awesome event, and the whole time you were talking about everybody else that was there. You didn't really promote your business, but you promoted your business by not promoting your business. Mm-hmm. I said, because that's what it's all about. It's about each other. It really is. It's about each other. So
we believe that strongly at OTG as well.
Oh, it's so true. Well, that's probably why we like each other.
I'm not a huge. Obviously, I want everyone to exercise and stuff like that. Right, so I guess my promotion of our business comes very organically, as you would say.
Right.
It just kind of happens because it's in our soul. Yeah. There's this is we're talking about Eastern stuff. There's and I may be saying this wrong, but there's actually a Japanese word. I think it's Pkwy or something like that. Sean, can you here? I'm going to look this up real quick.
Yeah, I got it. You continue with your thought.
Japanese word for purpose.
All right. I got you.
And basically, we don't have this word in English, but what it is it's a combination of what you love, what you're good at, what you feel like your purpose is, and it's all wrapped up in one. Did you find that?
Ikigai. It's
Ikigai.
Yeah.
Ikigai.
Yes, Ikigai. And did you find the little chart?
No, I just have like the Google.
Okay, yeah, it's okay. Basically, it's in one word. It sums up your purpose, your love, your soul, all in one term, and it's Ikigai. Mm-hmm. And this is yours.
Oh, it's like a Venn diagram type thing.
Yes, and it has all the different aspects of Ikigai in it. So if you're just Google Ikigai chart, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I like to think that spreading the word of health and fitness is my Ikigai, and yours is spreading the word of Ayurvedic yoga.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful thing. I have a little course that I do, and it's the 7 stages of the successful yoga student. The 7th stage is to blossom into entrepreneurship, because it's like whether you work at a company and you see yourself more as an entrepreneur inside the company, but either way, the term entrepreneur is in the oldest form wasn't really business; it was to undertake, to move into, right?
To create.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's a natural part of our being. I mean, we're born creators. I mean, we are born connectors and creators, and this is coming back to what we were talking about around mental illness, that we're born creators. And a lot of the mental disorder and such that we have, a lot of people are moving less and creating less. There's a pseudo creating by doing something online and in social media. It's a pseudo feeling, very much so. It's curating a certain image and it's not real. And it leads to a great deal of unhappiness when, what we need is to get out there, get a good run and sweat and set a goal and potentially fail, get back up again and do it again. That's what we need to be doing. But it's true, at my school, and I think at your place too, we're very much an extended community in that I just absolutely love what I do. It's so rewarding to see people get better. I am pretty results driven,
Sure,
it's like
you
have to. Discipline is a very important part of things, A lot of times people, and that's lacking somewhat, I think, too. And, when you think of the word discipline, a lot of people think of it like that dark, good, bad punishment thing. But, one derivation of the word disciple is a part of discipline.
Wow.
Yep.
You just blew my mind. I never even thought about that.
Isn't that beautiful? Like to a discipleship to your craft, and a discipleship to have the discipline. And there's a Sanskrit word that's very similar. It's tapas. It's like that discipline of the heat and the perseverance that we are born to live in that and to do that. And when that's not happening, I think these highly sensitive minds are just kind of, it starts kind of turning in on themselves. But I think with what we're doing, I know what we're doing at my school and what you're doing at OTG, I think it's a very important part of cultural development and the direction we're moving. Like, I think you're the same. You're a visionary, and I don't see what I'm doing as just running a yoga school. I really see what I'm doing is playing a very valuable and important role to a healthy trajectory of the evolutionary movement of humankind, because we're changing, and we're changing fast. And
you're right. You are part of the revolution. Mm-hmm. The revolution inside of us.
Yeah,
you are part of that for sure. Rasa yoga is part of that. Only the greatest is part of that. Yeah. Us sitting here right now are part of that. Anyone listening to this right now is part of that revolution. And I think that it's just so important to understand that and to believe that. So it's one thing to say, yeah, this thing is happening, but I want everyone to feel it inside of them, like in your soul, in your heart. You have to feel that you really want to, because if you don't, then not only are you like making something up, but everyone else sees that too. They know that you're just BSing. But if you come to them like at your event, when you're promoting your business without promoting your business, they know what the deal is, because they can hear it in your voice. They can see it in your eyes. They can see it in your soul.
Yeah.
Through every movement you make, everything that you do, they know. But if you're just making it up, they also know that, and you ain't a part of nothing at that point.
You ain't a part of nothing.
I've been told before, like, oh my God, Padma, you are so intense. I'm like, you hadn't
People
seen
tell me
anything
that too.
yet. Yeah, I know. It's like somebody said recently, they're like, you're like a wave coming up on the shore. I'm like, thank you. And it's like, that's a bad thing. It's like, but if you don't live that passion and that intensity and all of that isn't there, because what is that? It's energy. It's energy directed towards something. And, and like even at my school, if I've got a certain product I'm wanting, to share with people, like I'm about to start something, I do it annually. It's a best self challenge, meeting your highest self. And I'm doing an online school platform aspect of it. It's like group coaching, and I'm doing this online platform piece of it. And I'm pretty intense about it, but I'm like, guys, if you don't get intense and passionate about your own life, who is? And I said, and everybody knows that I'm like, you're free to say no, but I'm going to make sure you know what you're saying no to. Because if you say no to me, no, Padma.
You got all the details.
Yeah. If you're like, no, I don't want to enroll in that thing you want me to enroll in, right? If you say that, I'm cool with that. I'm not mad. I'm not going to hold a grudge. My feelings aren't hurt. But baby, you're going to know what you're saying no to.
Yeah.
You are going to know what you're saying no to.
What's the future of Rasa? Maybe we can wrap this thing up a little bit. What's the future of Rasa? What's in your game plan? We know it started with you, 2 other people 30 years ago. But what's next?
Oh, God, I got so many cool things going on. I got a super cool methodology going on at my school. Oh, my God. Yeah, I'll have to come back and tell you about that later because I'm experimenting with it now. But it's a community-driven methodology. See, a big part of my training, because I have upwards of the equivalent of like a PhD program in Ayurveda yoga. And I just, the students at that school are some of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life. And see, one of the main methodologies in that system of mastery of life in Ayurveda yoga is if you're going to master something, you must teach it. That's pretty classic in the Eastern world, that if you're going to master something, you teach it. It's got to run. It's like it's running through you. You got to run it through you. And that methodology has been something that in the past wasn't always the greatest business model, but was amazing for creating mastery. Well, most recently, I started forming these teaching teams where there's like 3 or 4 people on a teaching team. They're just training. And none of these people most people that train with me at my higher level things, they never intended on being teachers. But they understand and see the value of teaching, that teaching is mastery. So they go for it. So I got these teaching teams. I got about 20 people that I'm forming up in these teaching teams. This is going to start in January. And each team stays together for about 6 months. Each person on the team takes turns teaching for 6 weeks, and they have a group, a Marco Polo group, where they give each other feedback and they connect with each other. They attend each other's classes. They give each other feedback, and I'm training them on how do you give critical feedback, and not all the sugary stuff, all that, but how to be a warrior, how to hear it as a warrior and go, okay, yes, I see what I was doing there. I got a little codependent. I did this, that, and the other. And so anyway, I swear it feels so amazing, because what this means is if teaching is mastery, I've got like 20 people that are going to be doing this experiment with me together. Like they've agreed. They've agreed to do it. First of all, I had a meeting with them last week. They're going to be doing this experiment with me next week. And what I envision happening is I got about 20 people and working together, and they are going to exponentially move to such a higher functioning level of mastery. I love being surrounded by masters, people that are in, I'm not talking about like some destination, but people that are about life mastery. That's what I want to be around. People that are going to challenge me to that. And so I feel like what's next for the school is we have a big core group of people that are going to really kind of rise up and pull our school forward to really what the world needs right now. And so I don't know how cool that all sounded, because that may be something I'm geeking out more than how much fun that sounded. But the other things that are there is that I am starting a full digital platform, and my meeting, it's called Best Self Challenge, Meeting Your Highest Self. I did it last year. I had about 50 people that registered, and it's group coaching and different challenges and things like that. But this year, I'm adding an entire online school platform. They'll have different rooms that they go in. And one section will be, first, you've got to master self-love and the embodiment of self-love. Then overcoming resistance, unlocking purpose. There's like these different schools. And so that's pretty cool, because that's the next step in the bigger, broader digital aspect of things that I'm going to be creating. Like I'm creating meditations that you can purchase and listen to. I've even started doing some sleeping things people can listen to, positive I am statements, if you're needing more self-love and self-acceptance, or if abundance is a thing. So I'm working on a whole lot of digital stuff at the same time, really upgrading the leadership at our school and just really arming us for what's in front of us. I was in India recently, and my teacher said to me, Padma Ji, be patient, be patient, be patient. Be patient with everything that's occurring in the world. He says there's so many out there that have weapons of harm. He says the drug dealers, the drug cartels, the human trafficking, all the things that are occurring. And he said, but you have weapons that are greater than any other weapon that anybody could do any harm with. And he said, you have with you the weapons of peace. He said, be patient, get serious, and start drawing those weapons. And so that's what I'm doing.
I love it.
Yeah,
I do.
I'm forming an army of peace, baby. Army of peace.
So we could talk all weekend, all week about all of this, and I love it.
I want to hang out.
You can come back on. Where can people find you and link up with you and interact with you so that they can become part of your movement?
Okay.
And,
our website is rasayogaschool.org.
Rasayogaschool.org.
You can go on there. You can actually download. I've put on there, it's Facing Fear. It's a Facing Fear kit. It's a video, and it's 8 ways to how to leverage fear. And you can actually go on there and you can download that. And I've got your information. You can go on the website, pop into the chat. I'm on YouTube. It's the @ Padma Shakti, because I go by Padma Shakti. I'm on Instagram, and our school's on Instagram. So I'm fairly easy to find.
What are those Instagram handles? Or Instagram and
it's @Love Rasa Yoga, so it looks like Lover Asa Yoga.
Lover Rasa.
It's Love Rasa Yoga.
Lover Rasa Yoga.
Lover. It looks like Lover Asa Yoga. Yeah, and so at Love Rasa Yoga. And on Instagram, and then on Facebook, I'm Padma Shakti, and then I'm on YouTube too. So, just putting lots of good stuff out there.
So the studio is in Clear Lake area, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of stuff you're doing now is moving in the digital direction. So anyone in Houston can definitely join in and be a part of the peace movement.
Yeah, every class we have, we do live stream, we have on demand. I mean, we're hitting it. Like I said, I told you, I'm like, and getting in there. And I told you, I'm hanging out with Philip and Grant. So getting all like, doing that. And because I really do see us as part of a peace movement.
You should.
And you said something, and it really moved me when you were like, we need to feel that. We do need to strengthen our community of like minds, people that are of like minds like this, that are really seeing the importance of, we've got to stop the inner conflict and do what it takes to stop the inner conflict, because that's what our world needs. And we do need to connect up with each other. I think it's really important that we do that, because there are big groups of people right now that are waking up in ways I haven't seen before. Like the night at the event at my school, all of the people that I had there that were there at that event, people are behaving more open-minded toward me, because believe me, I've been made fun of my share. I've been around a long time. I've been called the cosmic girl, and I'm like, and that's a bad thing, because I am, and so now, though, to be so accepted by mainstream, because you could see the crowd that I had there, because people are ready. They're ready to make decisions toward peace, and not just peace like talking peace, but really doing what it takes to be that.
Inside and out.
Totally.
Yeah.
And like to be lovers, man. Like we got to just fall in love with life. Remember that heart? We got to nurture our hearts and just fall in love. We need to love each other, We need each other.
I do
I
agree.
love you. I love you guys.
We love
you. I love you. I mean, don't we need to say I love you more often?
Yeah.
I always say
I have a bad habit of not. Love is a very strong word for me,
Yeah.
for multiple reasons from my childhood and stuff. But I do agree.
Yeah.
I do
It's
agree.
ti-
I
you
should
know,
be
it's-
better.
I always
Well,
say it
you
at the
know what?
drive-through, like right before they'll be like, "All right, pull up. Your total is 1346." I'm like, "All right, cool, love you." I just pull up. Yeah.
Y'all, we
drop that
might be
on
here
them.
another 20 minutes, because we do. We need to talk about that, and you need to look at that, because you know what, the kind of love that I'm talking about, it's in Ayurveda yoga and in our lineage at our school. Think of the word Shri, SRI. It's like pure resplendence. It's not like human love that the idea, see, in human love, it's a possessive thing. Like we feel like if I love something, I must own it, right? We're in a consumeristic society. If I love a thing, I need to own it. If I love a person, suddenly we need to own them, or something, and I don't mean that really negatively, but the kind of love I'm talking about is, it's like just before an acorn, breaks into the beginnings of an oak tree, that kind of love where it can't stop itself. It's just so beautiful and perfect. And when you can see that beauty and that perfection in others, I see it in all of you guys. I mean, it's just like, how can you not love that?
Yeah. Well,
so that's
we
what
love
you're gonna
you.
work with.
I love each other. We're all here together.
I know.
Big ball of love. So
yeah.
we really want to thank you for coming on today. We learned a lot. I know I learned a lot. And my main takeaway is, guys, if you're sad, you can keep swimming. If you're angry, you can keep swimming. No matter what's going on in your life, just keep swimming, and you will eventually get where you want to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I love it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I got one last thought, and then we can close it out.
What you got?
You know we're not going to close it out, but go ahead.
You are the revolution that you're waiting for.
I love that.
That's all I'm going to say. Sean, you got anything?
Let's just say I love you more.
Let's just say I love you
more.
I
love you. So when I get my car,
drive through.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think getting in the habit of that so much more is important. I'm now getting where I sign everything. I love you. I'm really practicing saying that so much more, because that really is what we need. And you know what I've got queued up, just so y'all know, like when I was on my way in here, I listened to Rocky. Yes, I am that person.
I like it.
Okay, because I do, I love that. And then Let It Be.
Nice.
Is
That's
that
a nice combo?
Yeah.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah,
they work together because they don't seem like they work together.
Because they're the revolution, though. But you got to have that Rocky spirit.